Hey everybody, it's James Martin here. Welcome back to another brand new video. I'm here to help you filmmakers to not only make your movies better, but also to help you with your career. Today we're talking about how to properly budget your movie. See, the amount of money that you want to put into your movie could vary all across the board. We're talking about hundreds, thousands, all the way up to like blockbuster standard, which is like in the millions, the hundreds of millions even. So there's not really a right or wrong as to how much money you want to put into your project, but how you disperse that money and how you properly organize yourself to make sure that you're making the best bang out of your buck, essentially. That way you can get the best high quality movie for your money as possible. So there's a few things just to keep in mind. So first off, obviously we got to talk about the categories. There are quite literally dozens and dozens of different categories in terms of where you want to put your money into your movie. And obviously this is going to vary very much from project to project, right? But like, just to name a few examples, you have your crew and cast if you want to pay them. If you're just starting out, then maybe you'll be asking for a lot more volunteers. There's art, which includes costumes, props, makeup, sets, etc. You have the equipment budget, you have food, you have locations like rental and permits. Maybe you want to put into some marketing, like you want to make some posters, get some trailer music for trailers, and even distribution. There's festivals, you could sell on DVD. There's so many different ways you could go about this. And of course, there's also miscellaneous. I'll let you fill in what that looks like for you. And again, this will vary project to project. So if you have a lot of fight scenes in your movie, then there's the fight choreography. There might be stunt doubles. You might want to get mats and stunt equipment involved. You might want to consult with a professional about this first. I'm not recommending that you as a beginner go out and do your own stunts and fight scenes, because there could be a safety issue. Same as if you have like 20 extras, you got to make sure that all the extras, you got to figure out if they're getting paid or not. Often they don't really get paid unless, and if they do get paid, it's like a very, very small amount. If you're dealing with transportation, like if you want to rent a truck, like a moving truck to move everything from one place to another, you got to rent the truck, have insurance, and then of course there's the gas along with it. So there's so many different variations, but essentially you need to write out a complete list of absolutely everything in your project and then figure out where do you want to go from there. Which amount of the money goes where? My advice is what takes priority for you. You're going to have to be very strategic and very careful where you put that money. So for instance, let's say you're really focusing on a cinematography heavy kind of movie project. You really want to do fancy camera work, get the best camera, yada yada yada. You want to put as much money into the equipment budget as possible, because the more money that's in that budget, the more options you have later on. Maybe you have an art heavy type of movie. Maybe you're doing a fantasy or a sci-fi, in which case you really do need a lot of art to really bring that world to life. So put as much money into that art as possible. The other thing about budgeting is you got to be realistic with pricing. So I wouldn't recommend trying to sort of nickel and dime your way through the project, because often if you cut corners, that's really going to show in the quality. If there's art and they need a lot of money into their project, then don't just give them $100 and expect them to perform miracles. Work with them, see how much they could really use. And if they're like, listen, we honestly can't do a good job until we have more money, then you might want to look into doing something about it. But even when you're budgeting, meaning that you're pricing out your movie, maybe trying to get an idea of how much your movie is going to cost, so then you can go out and try and find money, or know how much money to raise on Kickstarter or whatever, then my best advice is to overprice, because at least at that point, it's better that you shoot high and above, over budget and overcompensate, than to undercompensate and then go over budget, which tons of movies end up doing that. Next, let's say that you got a budget down. So you know how much money your movie is going to cost. And for number 6, let's say it's going to cost you $1,000. So you go on Kickstarter, you try and raise some money, but you only end up raising $900 instead of $1,000. So now you have some choices to make as to how can you continue making your movie without having the full amount there. Then there's a few options as to how you can sort of still get what you want in certain areas without necessarily having to pay for it in a certain way. The first thing you could do is look for sponsors. In my experience, it's actually way easier just to ask someone to let you have something that they already have rather than ask for money. Rarely does asking for money actually work. A majority of the time, it's just easier that if someone has a location and you can sort of work out a nice deal to ask if you can shoot at their location without it costing you any money, perfect. Try and do that. right? Again, becoming one of them, I was able to negotiate and get a lot of stuff sponsored to cut back our budget significantly so that way we could still do what we wanted. The other way you could go about it is, can you borrow items? This is great for props, costumes, especially if you're shooting a movie that takes place in the modern times. See if your actors can bring their own costumes. Just work with them and see if maybe they can wear clothes they already own. That way it doesn't cost you anything and they just use what they have. Be very careful that if they're doing fight scenes, stunts, heavy makeup, that you're very clear with them. Bring clothes that you're not afraid are going to get dirty or wrecked, because chances are they will. And just make sure that when the movie's done, that they go home with their clothes. Like, I'm not saying they're going to go home naked. I'm just saying that, let's say they have to wear different outfits and then they get dirty, just make sure that they take their clothes home. They might bring a second outfit, I don't know. But I've had clothing left behind on sets before. It does happen. And then, of course, try and look for deals wherever you can. Right? Maybe you can swing a deal with a business where if they give you something at a discount, you'll provide something else like exposure, free tickets to the movie, a free copy of the movie, so many different options. If you really want to know how to negotiate really, really great deals, I do have a video that I will put up in the cards and the description down below. Check that out because there's tons and tons of ideas on how you can negotiate a deal and get sponsors. Final thing that you really need to keep an eye on is the budget. During the entire course of the filmmaking, keep a really tight hawk eye on your budget. What you really don't want to do is to overspend, because that can really get you into a really awful place, because you run out of money, you need money in other places, and then you're like, we ran out. So at all times, you need to make sure that, listen, if you're spending X number of money on food, make sure you're only spending that money on food, and then check it off. Like, okay, so we got our food. If we're spending X amount of money on, let's say, a permit for a location, check it off. Like, okay, so we spent this much money, we got the permit, that's done. Stay organized and stay on top of your budget. Again, you don't want to get lost. You don't want to get confused with this. Otherwise, you're really not going to like the results. And you got to stay as organized as possible on set, because it can get really crazy really fast. And also, one additional tip I want to offer you is set aside whatever amount of money to work on the movie, and then set aside just additional amount of money. This doesn't have to be much. It could be like, if your budget is $1,000, maybe set aside $50. If your budget is, let's say, $10,000, maybe set aside a couple $100. This is sort of emergency money. Hopefully there isn't an emergency, but this is sort of the just in case kind of money. Like, maybe there's not enough food, everyone eats a lot, and then you're like, you know what, we got to get a few more snacks. Then you still have a little bit of money left over that you can go out and do stuff like that. Maybe someone's like, you know what, we actually need a few more art supplies because we ran out. Stuff can happen. Then you have that money that you can go and actually do additional things. Maybe coffee ran out, so you go out and grab coffee. Who knows, right? So at least have that little bit set aside just in case, because you really never know. And you know what? If you end up not using that money, then when you're done the shoot, put it somewhere else. Put in your marketing, put in your distribution, put it somewhere. You always want to use up your budget. Don't really set aside stuff after the movie is done. So I'm just saying, set aside a little bit for your shoot, for the emergencies. After that, put it into your marketing or distribution. Okay, so I hope this helped you out. If it did, please smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Share this out to other filmmakers who really want to benefit from this as well. And please comment below, what information did you get from this video that can really help you with budgeting your movie? Let me know any of your questions down in the comments, and I will make a video around that as well. Make sure you subscribe, because we're almost hitting 1,000 subs by the end of this year. I really hope we can. That's sort of the big goal of 2020. I know we can do it. So please make sure you subscribe and turn on notification bell so you don't miss a single upload. Good luck with your projects, and I will see you guys next time.